Welcome to this special edition in our Real American Heroes COVID-19 series. We usually have a guest on each episode, but today it's just me, your host, Oliver North. I've been asked why we're doing these broadcasts. Well, here's why. I'm tired of the self-centered whining, pandemic paranoia, fear-mongering, and pseudo-sadness by so many members of the so-called mainstream media. I'm aggravated by headlines with words like these, and I'm downright dismayed by folks like this purported CNN anchor.
It's okay to not be okay right now. That's the main thing I want to say to everyone watching.
All this woe is me so-called journalism prompts me to remind everyone this is not the end of life as we know it on the planet Earth. Now don't get me wrong, the COVID-19 virus is dangerous. It calls for strong measures, requires we behave like we all know it can kill, and help defeat it in ways that matter. It means our kids are home instead of school or college. It means we have to avoid large gatherings, wash our hands, and wear masks and rubber gloves. I do. It means tough times for many small businesses and dealing with shortages of certain things at certain times. And it means that some of us older folks are going to be at greater risk of severe sickness and death today and tomorrow than we were before the communist Chinese unleashed this deadly virus on the world. What COVID-19 is not is a reason for selfish, navel-gazing grief. If you want to grieve for someone, do so for the employees of the communist Chinese-owned meatpacking plants in Sioux Falls, South Dakota and elsewhere, who were ignored by their appalling employer and became a new epicenter of this disease. Members of the Fourth Estate ought to focus less on selfishness and more on selflessness. The classical definition of a hero is a person who willingly puts themselves at risk for the benefit of others. In normal times, this show is all about real American heroes, the kind of inspiring people with whom I have spent nearly my whole life. Here's a few examples. On the night before D-Day at Normandy, John Peruzzi parachuted into France with the 82nd Airborne Division. He was wounded defending a vital crossroads against Hitler's counterattack. And when he died last year, he still had a German bullet lodged next to his heart.
Somebody's got to be left behind when you're fighting a war. We all would like to beat the enemy up, go home as one piece, but war is not like that. Heroes under them white crosses, they're the ones that you leave behind.
Dave Ewbank is a missionary. During the brutal battle to liberate Mosul from ISIS, he raced through horrific enemy fire to save the life of a little girl whose mother had been gunned down by the terrorists.
I think we all want to be heroes, and we should, because that means you care about someone else. But when you're faced with life and death, whatever is a pride in that, that's gone, because your self-preservation instincts kick in and override all pride. So what enables you to do it, I believe, is love and faith. God, you had me do this, and He gave me love to do it.
Tanner Primmer is a maritime sheriff's deputy at Port Canaveral, Florida. He saved 2 teenage girls from certain death by narrowly pulling them out of the path of an oncoming cruise ship at the risk of his own life.
I'm a deputy that tries to come to work and do my job every day. I had 2 lives to save, and it was my responsibility. I was there at that time to save 2 lives, and if I didn't save them, I was willing to die trying.
After Sergeant Mike Parsons of the Tulsa, Oklahoma Police Department was wounded in the leg by a bullet fired by an armed criminal, his wife, a fellow police officer, helped drag him out of the line of fire. Sergeant Parsons courageously resumed command of the situation and captured the perpetrator without endangering any of dozens of law-abiding citizens.
The suspect was saved by the man that he tried to kill, and that's just a fact.
Pete Dipinto, a recently retired Long Island fireman, was awakened by the sound of an automobile crash on a nearby railroad crossing. He and his wife rushed to the scene where they spotted a car on the tracks with a train fast approaching. Pete put his life at risk by dragging the driver out of her vehicle just seconds before impact.
There was no other time. It was now or never. We were going to live or die together.
The train just passed and all I heard was the crash. And I'm just standing there screaming and screaming. There was no way he could have made it out of there.
COVID-19 is already producing inspiring heroes like these. Try this. Our brave first responders, the doctors, nurses, med techs, EMTs, law officers, and the thousands of men and women of our National Guard who've gone into harm's way to save lives. Rather than mindless, pathetic, self-focused whining, members of our Fourth Estate ought to be encouraging instead of discouraging. And once we can again travel freely, we'll be bringing you more inspiring examples of American heroes. Until then, we're going to continue this Press On America campaign. Our mission, and Marines love having a mission, is to provide you with facts, straight scoop on how to persevere in tough times. In each edition, we put on experts willing to share their advice, wisdom, and experience as encouragement to all Americans. And despite what our so-called mainstream media mavens tell you, it really isn't okay to not be okay. Now, press on, America. Press on.